At the end of the day, guys, this is a review and I'm here for my girls. All of my reviews are always going to be 100% definitely my opinion, but an honest one. I definitely have my favorites when it comes to hair suppliers, but lately I've noticed that when it comes to ordering, I could be waiting anywhere up to 2 weeks to get my hair. As a result, I went on the prowl for a new hair supplier, somebody who would, you know, had good quality hair and who would get my order to me in what I would consider a reasonable amount of time. So a reasonable amount of time for me would be anywhere between I would say 5 minimum and 9 days, right? And that's just not what's been happening lately. I came across this website called Arabella Hair. So the estimated delivery time for Arabella Hair on their website is anywhere between 2 and 7 days. I received the hair within like around 10 days. I ordered 3 bundles of 18-inch 12A hair, and that package came with a 13x6 transparent lace frontal. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that I put all the details at the bottom of the screen. So for me, I don't like short hairs within my bundle. If I'm buying 18-inch, I don't expect to see loads and loads of short hair. I did notice that the bundles came pretty full for the length that I'd bought. They seemed very silky, very soft, and there was minimal short hairs, which means there was just like a few. I always check for bulbs, and the bulbs would basically be the bit that would normally be like inside the scalp that you pull out, that little bulb on the top. If you don't know, you know, you want your bundles, or you want any hair you buy to be aligned, that you want the cuticle to be aligned, so all the bulbs at the top and then the long full length of the cuticle, which is the end of the hair, at the bottom of the hair. You don't want like the hair to be in different directions, because it's going to snag, it's going to tangle, it's going to shed. So that's usually not a really good sign if you have short hairs and you can see like little black bulbs on there. So I noticed there were minimal short hair and no black bulbs, which is always a plus. And also for the amount of hair, the length of the hair that I bought, I noticed that the amount that I got in the bundle I felt was sufficient. Now the frontal, on the other hand, I've definitely had better frontals. The reason why I say that is because the first thing I did notice when I got the frontal was that it was a totally different texture to these 12A bundles. The texture it was a very kind of rough, coarse texture. And I was a little bit concerned because you can feel it and you could kind of see it as well. The lace on the frontal did appear initially to be transparent, and it was, you know, it was kind of soft. I'm still feel like it's a little bit debatable whether it is a real transparent closure. I did notice with the frontal that it seemed to be a frontal that was part of a lace cap. So basically, if you would imagine a lace cap with a frontal already on it, so the frontal forms a whole entire cap, which you can obviously tighten at the back, and then you can sew your bundles onto the rest of the lace. I was a little bit annoyed as to why I wasn't given the choice. I don't know if this is a new thing where 13x6 frontals are concerned, but I have not received a frontal that is like basically a whole wig cap with a closure already attached to a cap. It's kind of already deciding where this closure or where this frontal is going to sit on your head. I would normally pull the frontal forward, quite forward, while I'm constructing the wig. With the frontal being part of this cap, you actually don't have the luxury to pull it forward and then, you know, sew on your bundles and, you know, have an actual wig that is made to fit your head. It's gonna adjust as you sew, and I didn't sew, by the way, I glued my wefts on, but it's pretty much the same thing. The size of the cap adjusted, it pulled the frontal back, and actually the whole construction, which initially I understood that the concept behind it was to make wig making easier, actually became a little bit of more of like a hindrance. Also, another thing I noticed about the wig, the frontal being part of this lace cap, you end up getting less hair on the side of the frontal. So like there was all this space going back, but you only got that much on the side of the actual frontal. So I'm not gonna lie, I felt a little cheated. I did dye the bundles and I did dye the frontal. You should be able to see beside me like the technique of what, it's not really a technique to be honest, it's lazy girl guide, okay? I get a bowl, I drop the powdered dye in it, which by the way, I use the Star Safro permanent powdered dye, which you can get from your local beauty supply store. And I basically, it's the dye, it's powder that you mix with water and it's a permanent dye. And that's what I do. And I drop the bundles in there and I just leave it to do its thing, and I keep going back and I pull it out and I work the color through the bundle and then I drop it back in and just leave it. Both the frontal and the bundles took really well to color. When it came to rinsing is when I really got to see the quality of the frontal. Now the bundles they came out in exactly the same quality they went in. I have absolutely no issues with the bundles. The bundles are some good hair. If you're used to handling hair, then you know that you don't rough it up, you don't scrub it, you just kind of like put your hand through it top to bottom. That's how you kind of like wash the hair. You don't do anything rigorous with it. And I'm saying that to say I didn't do anything rigorous with this frontal. I literally just put it in the water to rinse it out, and I noticed that the hair just became completely tangled. There was a lot of shedding. I think I've got a clip of just some of the shedding, because I think the bit that I caught was when I actually thought, oh, let me show them this, because at that point I'd experienced the shedding just from washing it initially. But just know, guys, that like the frontal sheds a lot, okay? And the type of tangled it gets is definitely not normal, and if you're not careful, you're just gonna lose all of the hair in the frontal. I did attempt to bleach the knots. I used the same developer that I would normally use when I bleach all of the knots on all of my wigs, and it didn't take very well. I've still got a lot of dark knots. I am going to definitely go back in and re-bleach the knots, because the next review I'm going to be using a product that's going to require that the knots are not visible. Final thoughts on Arabella hair. I think the bundles of 12A bundles are a really good quality hair. I definitely felt like the frontal could be a little thicker, but to be honest with you guys, like by the time I finished washing it and like coloring it, conditioning it, and it's shedding each time, it's no wonder it felt, you know what I mean, a little light. But to be honest with you, I don't think it was that full in the first instance. I'm used to closures and frontals that when I part, you know, I actually have to pluck the part in because there's that much hair on it. Even though I understand the concept of the frontal being part of this cap, it just turned out to be a little bit of a hindrance. That's just my opinions. And I also feel like it is a little bit of a rip-off, considering that you're not getting, you know, the full amount of the frontal at the sides. In terms of price, if we disregard the discount, we're talking maybe around somewhere between just over £200. I feel like in terms of price, they're pretty reasonable. I know, and if you don't know, the longer you go in terms of hair, the less you're actually gonna get in the bundle. But I feel like Arabella's bundles are reasonable. I hope they remain that way. I haven't had any sort of a shedding when it comes to the lower part of the hair and any kind of a tangling. I'm very happy with it. The frontal, on the other hand, is definitely a no-no for me, I'm afraid. And yeah, I think that's going to be it for this video, guys. So thank you very much if you stayed to watch until the end. If you haven't already, give the kid a thumbs up, subscribe for the ride, and I'll see you in another one. Bye.